Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'd like to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
All council members are present.
Great. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the January 23rd, 2024 meeting and the agenda of the February 13th, 2024 meeting in accordance with state law, City Council and Housing Authority policy. We have one presentation today for a Guinness World Record attempt. I'd like to invite the Parks and Recreation Manager, Heather Carter, to come and tell us about this. Hi, Heather.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council members and staff. My name's Heather Carter, and I'm here to talk about our upcoming world record attempt for most dogs to attend a film screening. I'm a Parks and Recreation Manager here with the City of El Cajon. And a while back, City Council expressed they would like us to attempt a world record of some sort. So we put on our thinking caps and came up with the idea to do the most dogs to attend a film screening. And we thought that would be a great way to just have an intergenerational event, something everybody could have fun with, and give us a great way to do some collaboration with some volunteer groups in the community and just build community. So doing some research, the current record is 219 dogs, and that is held by Paramount Pictures. It was set just a few months ago in LA, and they actually set the record as a promotional event as part of their premiere for their new Paw Patrol movie. And so they actually spent tens of thousands of dollars to work with the World Record Organization to be able to use it as a promotion for their event. We were encouraged by that organization to take this fee-based approach. Unfortunately, we don't have the same kind of budget, so we're doing a grassroots effort to get all of our own type of volunteers and do everything ourselves. So totally different approach that we're taking, but we think we can do it. This is a free community event. It'll take place in just about a week and a half on February 24th. And we'll start our check-in process at 1 o'clock p.m. We'll be aiming for the movie to start around 1:30, and it will take place at Wells Park. Wells Park was chosen as our location mostly due to our logistics. It's a huge parking lot there, so we do expect a high attendance, and to be able to accommodate everybody, we need that size of a parking lot. Also, the logistics of using our LED screen, which you may have seen at our Winter Wonderland. It works great there for that, and also having the dog park there doesn't hurt either. So it gives a nice opportunity for the dogs to have something to do before or after the event. And we also are always looking at ways we can bring positive activities to that park, and another way to show off some of the new amenities we've brought to that park recently, such as the new basketball courts and our mini pitch. And we'll be showing a classic, Beethoven. I grew up with Beethoven, so I'm excited about that. And it's not all about the dogs, so we'll also have our famous rec squad there. We'll have crafts and games, and we'll also have a food truck. And even if you don't have a dog, you can still come and watch the movie, so I don't want that to deter anyone either. And the world record attempt process is quite a lengthy process. We did submit a request quite a while ago to attempt a world record. And then we received all of the guidelines, pretty big packet to look through, have been doing pre-approval processes, and after the event, we'll be submitting all of evidence for review. And then that evidence could take up to 12 weeks to either approve or deny the record. There's a lot of little details that go into it. So even if you hit the number of dogs, you may not necessarily hit all of those details. So there's a lot that goes into this. Some of that evidence does include a cover letter. We'll have witness statements. We even have a veterinarian that needs to be at the event. Photographic evidence. We'll have video evidence of the entire event from setup to completion. We have even timekeepers. So during the first 10 minutes of the movie, all of the dogs need to be within the viewing area. They don't need to be looking at the screen, but they need to be in the viewing area. We'll have stewards that need to be responsible for overseeing no more than 50 dogs each. And these are independent stewards, so we're working with some different volunteer groups, as well as a detailed record of each participant, the dog breed, their approximate age, the dog handler's name. So there's a lot of details that go into this whole process. I won't go through all of these rules, and there's even more rules on our website. However, there are a lot of rules and guidelines, some of which we have put together to ensure a safe and fun environment for both the people and the dogs attending the event, but some of them are in place for the world record itself. So we do ask that everybody attending our event look on our website. All of our promotions do have a QR code that lead to the website, so people can take a look ahead of time. We don't want people to show up and be disappointed that their dog maybe can't be a part of the record. They can still, of course, participate, but maybe can't be a part of the record if they don't meet all of the requirements. I just want to point a couple out. One of them is dogs must have natural appearances. For example, they can't have dyed hair. That's not our rule. That's a world record rule. And then some of them are both world record rules and for the safety of the dogs, such as they need their current licenses and vaccines. So again, I would just encourage anyone bringing their dogs to look at those rules ahead of time. Some of the promotion for this event is we have been active on social media, posting on Instagram, as well as a Facebook event. We've sent out a press release. I saw that Fox 5 News has gotten a hold of our story and been talking about it. You may have seen street banners around town. We've been sending out emails. They'll be going out to our recreation program participants, as well as the school district through their peach jar. Our flyers have went out through there. We've also been sending out flyers or passing out flyers to local dog parks, and we're set up to pass out flyers. Santee is having a dog event coming up in, I believe, a few days that we'll be passing flyers out there. And also, I put a logo, that little dog up there with the D. Dog TV actually reached out to us, and they will be providing content before and after our event to just kind of calm the dogs because it could be a stressful environment with a lot of dogs. And they have offered to promote our event on their social media as well. So that's kind of exciting. And with that, I hope to see you all at the event with your four-legged friends if you have some. And I'm open to any questions, and I'd also like to thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Phil.
First, a comment. Great job. We can't always be focused on problems all the time. We have to have fun once in a while, and this is a fun thing to do. So thank you for your hard work. Who would have thought that the Guinness Book of World Records process was so long? But thank you for doing that. My question, I'll be there with my three kids. Sometimes they're four-legged, you know. But if we are at 218, if I went to the dog shelter and rented one to get us over the limit, would that count? Do we know? I mean,
so each dog we can only have one dog per dog handler. So,
Okay, so if we're at 2:19 and we just rush over real quick.
so
and
there
grab
needs to be an adult handling the
it?
dog.
Okay, all right. Well then,
You must know somebody with a dog.
well yes, I
Not
might
mine.
know. Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I'm coming. I'm bringing my dog, Doc. So. Oh, Michelle. Oh, Steve.
I think it's an absolutely positively great event. It's a granddad joke. You just got to throw that in there. We have 6, including a St. Bernard, among our kids in our family. So I think that we're going to have much more than 219. This is going to be a lot of fun for the community. Councilmember Ortiz is right. It's time to have some fun. The weather is going to be great. It's going to be clear. It's going to be sunny. It's just going to be a great event. Thank you for doing this for the people of El Cajon.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. It's a great event.
Thanks.
Okay. Agenda changes. Staff, do you have any?
No, sir.
Council? That brings us to consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Staff?
No.
I'll make a motion then to approve the. Well, first out, let me ask Angela if we have any speaker cards for this.
No speaker cards, sir.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you. So we're now at public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any speaker cards
Yes,
for public
sir,
comment?
I'm sorry. We do have 3. The first one is Kay Turpin.
Hey, Kay.
Kay Turpin. Mayor, council members, thank you for indulging me for a minute. I came here today on a personal mission to put in a good word for the Chaldean Community Council. I started volunteering for them about 6 months ago, helping them with some grant writing, and work in the office on Mondays and Tuesdays. And during that time, I have seen, well, as many of you know, I've worked in social services for a very long time and have worked for many organizations. And I am so touched and so moved by the level of care and compassion and dignity that Juliana and her social workers extend to the populations that are receiving services. Most of those individuals, there were 20,000 individuals served last year, and most of those individuals are walking into this facility from, as you know, the myriad of apartment complexes that neighbor it. Yesterday, when I went into the office, there was a man and a woman my age who were standing in the parking lot crying. I don't speak Aramaic or Arabic or Armenian, but I could tell that clearly they were in distress, and they were welcomed in languages that they were native to. And most importantly, they're helped by people that have similar life experiences. Everyone on the board has lived experiences. One of the board members is here today. And I know that you're negotiating some business with them, and I just wanted to come because I have a personal relationship with all of you except for Councilmember Kendrick, which hopefully we will have one day. But I wanted to just come and let you know that I really respect and honor the work that they do, and I hope that you take that to heart when you're making your decisions. One other thing I'd like to add. You may know this, but they have a radio station, and I pulled some statistics today and learned that during COVID, over a 52-week period, they broadcast in Aramaic, Armenian, and Arabic on a weekly basis to the constituents in the city of El Cajon. I also learned that your emergency services department oftentimes asks them to publish emergency notifications. Last week, when the county asked the public to stay home during the flooding, that was broadcast on the radio station. I don't know how you put a pencil to that or value that, but I look at that and I see it as being invaluable and something that the city should take to heart as well.
Any questions for Kay?
Thank you.
Kay, I have a quick question for you. We were talking yesterday, and you had mentioned something that I hadn't really thought about, and I want you to kind of explain that. That, you know, we're often very focused on homelessness, obviously. It's a big issue for the city. And you were saying that what you're doing there at the center is helping people to not become homeless. Can you explain that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Oftentimes what happens when a refugee or a newly resettled individual is walking through, they have some type of temporary housing voucher. A lot of those transactions are facilitated by our congressional delegate, by the state of California, and oftentimes through your constituent services. Those are only temporary. The board members themselves have been funding this facility since 2017. Most of the money that is being used for rental assistance is coming out of their private pocket. I'm helping them to, as a matter of fact, I submitted a grant today for $200,000 to the state of California, strictly for rental and utility assistance. I know that there are thousands of people that are receiving services from the Chaldean Community Council on an annual basis that otherwise probably would have ended up being homeless.
Any assistance with food?
They have a food pantry at the center. I would invite all of you to come by, especially on a Monday when they're opening, because they're closed on the weekends, but they do have a food pantry. They offer anything that they offer: free citizenship classes, free English as a second language classes. They offer transportation to and from medical appointments and Uber classes. The primary focus is really self-sufficiency, and so once somebody is stabilized and they're fed and they have weather-appropriate clothing and they know that there's a roof over their head, they go right into their ESL classes. The business incubator itself will be a very nice connection for those individuals that are coming out of relocation crisis and going into a more advanced vocational training. I love them. They are God-fearing, hardworking, incredible human beings, and candidly, I feel very honored and privileged that I get to work side by side with them every day.
Well, thank you. Okay,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Next speaker is Robert Gurman.
Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Robert Gurman. I'm spokesperson for Citizens Against Gillespie's Expansion Low-Flying Aircraft. And I'm here today to just give the board notice that the EPA has finalized an endangerment finding for lead emissions from aircraft that operate on leaded fuel, and that relates to Gillespie. And then also, and this is from the feds, I gave you all a flyer. And then this is from the state and the county, and it says lead in aviation gas. And it's printed in Spanish and in English, and it gives you some procedures for having your kids tested for lead. And they recommend blood testing for lead because they've had a in-depth study, I think it was 2 years, up in the San Francisco area, and they found out that some of the kids within 1.5 miles of the airport, and as far as 3 miles from the airport, you know, and Gillespie's right in the middle of a valley, that their blood levels were as high as Flint, Michigan, the ones that were within 1.5 miles. So they have recommended that we start paying attention to this. It's top on EPA's priority, and this is the last step for banning the fuel. And different airports are taking different strategies. So I just wanted to let you know that that's what's happening, and you know, We have Gillespie in the middle of our valley. Do you have any questions?
Let me see. Steve?
What are you asking from the city since we don't have jurisdiction over the operations at the airport?
As far as, are you asking particular to El Cajon? El Cajon does have jurisdiction over what is on the ground. And the FAA has input with the EPA on what the aircraft burn. But eventually they're going to be, it's going to be banned. Now, Gillespie has no vapor recovery system like we do for our cars. Aviation is exempt from everything. They have no emission standards. So what we would like to see is the first step is to put in emission controls at Gillespie Field. So every time you fuel a plane, every time a load 8,000 gallons or smaller is delivered to Gillespie, it has a vapor recovery system that catches the fumes and then takes it back to wherever the delivery comes from. Now, avgas, I understand, comes from the terminal on 24th Street. Along with gas and everything. So they shouldn't be, there's already technology to do it, it just hasn't been implemented, and this will ultimately implement it. Okay.
I'm just curious. Graham, is that your understanding that we have jurisdiction over what's on the land at the airport?
I don't believe so. It's currently, it's operated by the county operates it, so it's a county property. I don't think we have land use authority over them. We do have individuals that sit as representatives on different advisory boards, but I don't think we have much control beyond that.
Would you get us a definitive answer for that at some point?
Certainly.
All right, we'll look into it, sir.
Great. Thank you very much for listening.
The last speaker is Brenda Hammond.
Hello.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Graham. Mr. Mitchell. Bear with me because I just wrote this out. As usual, I had something planned, but it's really not for your city, so, you guys are cool. But this problem could be for all the areas in the county. I spent the last 2 weeks getting down and dirty in the storm drains all over the county, even in South Bay. We know the places that usually flood for sure, but these past storms were a little stronger than what we're used to in sunny Southern California. So here's the problem. The drains need to be cleaned out on a regular basis. Not wait for a storm like we had, and there's more coming, to get monies from the state and federal government, our tax dollars, and then the money the state and federal government so graciously give to us, only for local governments to spend it on everything but what it's supposed to be spent on. We didn't see. Or didn't we see that with the homeless outreach programs? Some of them, driving their beautiful SUVs, the gas-guzzling things. And then I didn't see them doing a whole lot. So, and I've been out there for 14 years. The other thing is when you clean out those drains, I hear there's a group, environmental group, and I am for the environment too. But this group says that they can't you can't clean those drains out. Choice Creek can't be cleaned out unless you take those trees and plants, and believe me, they're big, and replant them. Well, give me a break. If you do that, those things are going to die anyway, so get a bulldozer and get those things out of there. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
No other speakers, sir.
All right. There are no written communications and no public hearings on today's agenda. We have 3 administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 9 is a report on operations of the Downtown Property Business Improvement District, and I'll ask our Assistant City Manager, Vince DiMaggio, to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. In just a few minutes, you will be receiving a report from Mr. Marco Lamandri, who is the president of New City America. I just want to provide a few minutes of context to just briefly summarize the staff report and how we got to where we are today. As you may recall, in the spring of last year, 2023, the city circulated requests for proposals to solicit consultants interested in conducting a comprehensive analysis of the operations of the El Cajon Property Business Improvement District, otherwise known as the PBID. From that process, New City America was chosen. They are a local firm founded by Mr. Lamandri. They are most noted for their revitalization of Little Italy in downtown San Diego, but they have created and maintained over 90 districts throughout the country, both East Coast and West Coast. So they were definitely very well qualified to conduct this analysis, and we were pleased that they chose to respond. As you may have seen in their report, their analysis, they have developed a 5-point checklist with which Mr. Lamandri will go over with you momentarily. So I will not go into it right now, but they analyze PBIDs throughout the country based upon these 5 criteria and how those PBIDs are functioning efficiently and effectively compared against those. One of the things that NCA, New City America, did was to revisit the Blue Ribbon Committee report from 2011, and several of the original Blue Ribbon Committee recommendations still remain relevant to this day, such as a concern on the over-reliance of car shows and concerts, the need to expand the board of directors, and a need to incorporate the programming of the events at the Magnolia into larger downtown events. As part of the comprehensive analysis that NCA conducted, they also went back and looked at FY 21-22 budget. Several recommendations came out of that, and you will be hearing about those. But one of the things that came out of that is a recommendation that the PBID hire a full-time executive director, and that would remove the management burden from volunteer board members and ensure greater accountability in the operations. One of the most significant, I would say, recommendation that came out of the study was the suggestion, which would be on the city, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, to adopt a new enabling ordinance. And the enabling ordinance would recast the PBID as a community benefit district. There are several advantages that Mr. Lamandri will go into with regard to this, but 2 of them are that it provides a little bit more of a reasonable petition process for the recertification of the PBID, and it would also allow the City Council to set the term of the district. So that will be explained in greater detail as part of Mr. Lamandri's presentation. Section 8 of the report includes a series of actions. The first section is 12 recommendations which have to do with things that the PBID itself, the board of directors itself, would have to implement. The city would play no role in those 12 recommendations. However, the second series of actions is a series of 6 recommendations, and I do want to take a moment to go through each of those because 3 of those have already been implemented by the city in some fashion. The first one, the first recommendation that would be under the city's responsibility would be to increase market rate housing incentives, create a series of incentives for market rate housing. We essentially have already done this. We have very favorable zoning regulations that encourage higher densities in and throughout the downtown. We also don't have development impact fees, and we have a very efficient entitlement processing procedure, if you will. So we have taken a lot of steps that other cities do not have when it comes to incentivizing market rate development in the downtown. The second recommendation is the aforementioned adopt a community benefit district ordinance, and that would be an ordinance that would allow a little bit more of an easier path for PBID recertification. That's something the council could consider and direct staff to begin the process on framing that ordinance for your consideration. Number 3 is adopt a sidewalk vending ordinance. The city has one. We adopted one in 2020 in compliance with the state of California, the law that was passed, I believe, 2019-2020. So we already have that completed. Adopt a busker ordinance. A busker, if you don't know, is a street musician. And we don't have really any impacts from street musicians at this point, but all of the efforts that are being undertaken by the PBID, by Market Nights, which is forthcoming, by any sort of initiative that would increase activity in the downtown may need a busker ordinance. That would be something the council could direct staff to prepare and consider. The fifth recommendation is to create standards for redevelopment and wider sidewalks on the west side. This is specifically on the West Main Street area of the PBID boundaries. This is already underway right now with the Main Street, Green Street street improvements that are going on as we speak. So this is already being implemented. The sidewalks that are being constructed as part of that are not as wide as the recommendation that's being made, but nevertheless, it's a big improvement over that area of the PBID as it has existed in the past. And finally, fund the replacement of permanent seating along Prescott Promenade with movable street furniture. NCA feels in making this recommendation that it's easier to program events along the promenade if we had movable street furniture, and it would also aid us in preventing camping. So I just wanted to provide kind of a 30,000-foot overview of a quite lengthy report, but I will turn it over to Marco Lamandri right now, who will take you through the details of the report. And at the very end of the report, we added 2 slides if the council wants to talk more about the 12 recommendations that are being made to the PBID, and then the other 3 recommendations that could potentially be implemented by the city. So we can talk further about that at the conclusion of Mr. Lamandri's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. DiMaggio. I appreciate that, and thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mayor Wells, it's a pleasure to see you again, and City Council people, thank you for the opportunity to present this. We've been working on this for just about a year now. We started February 1st, 2023. And it didn't get done at the time that we had hoped to because there was still so much information I still wanted to gather and I still wanted to understand. So we just extended it. We were trying to get to a presentation in December, but schedules didn't work, so we are here today for discussing this. And I'm going to run you through the PowerPoint presentation, and as Vince had stated, that there's a lot of recommendations in here. I'm not critical of any volunteers that work in any type of PBID or community benefit district. What I was just trying to do was understand better as a native San Diegan perhaps why El Cajon has not flourished as much as some other areas have over the last 25 years. And I say that from somebody who we just took over the management of downtown Chula Vista, which had its PBID formed about the same year as you guys did. And they had a number of issues over the years that were not allow them to move forward. We got that contract in August 2021, and we're starting to see some new development occurring, new restaurants coming in, as well as installing movable chairs and looking at public space development, working very closely with the city manager and the mayor in Chula Vista also. So a little bit of way of background, I started working in Little Italy. I was born in Little Italy, and I started working there after being a food manufacturer for 9 years. Moved in probably about 1996, 1997, and Little Italy was on its last legs. At that point, the redevelopment agency actually called it Harborview. It wasn't even called Little Italy anymore. And I realized in beginning all this work, because you don't go to school to learn this stuff, you just do it, and you just figure it out. We, at one point, had 13 Little Italys in the country. There's about 5 left. It's because there was no one monitoring them, no one managing them, no one trying to fix the problems that existed. And if you know anything about Boston and the North End, which Little Italy and the North End, Little Italy and San Diego North End are considered the premier Little Italys and one of the strongest ones that are left, they're always at war with the neighbors within their district. And it's been problematic for them. But over the last few years, we've formed 94 districts. So I have a pretty good idea on how this is done. They can be done through PBIDs or as Vince had mentioned, charter city enabling ordinances. When you first started this effort, you were not a charter city. You are a charter city now. And charter cities are starting to grow in the 18 cities in San Diego. So we formed 94, the latest one being in Ontario, California, about 2 weeks ago. That was a renewal. And we manage 6. So we do all ends of understanding how the district is formed, what types of budgets you need, and then how the services should be implemented. So I'm going to walk through this, and it has, as Vince has stated, there's 5 things that we've looked at, because as time's gone on, I've tried to simplify what are the elements that really make a district work. I can't pick up a book and read that, and the only way you can do it is by talking to other people throughout the country, seeing what's worked for them, seeing what didn't work. And then we had this thing called COVID, which really impacted business districts all throughout the country. And I would tell you, as someone who does this for a living, not all of them are going to come back. We're pretty lucky here in San Diego that we've bounced back with at least the visitor industry and the convention center. But there are places that are real problematic areas in San Diego that have had a hard time coming back. They have a lot of holes in their operations. That's not so much the case in downtown El Cajon. So now I'm going to, there we go. So it's important for us to, before we do the analysis, I wanted to see what work had been done previously. The 5 documents that I looked at, and the city manager was kind enough to provide me with all those, was the El Cajon Blue Ribbon Commission report of 2011. Your PBID was formed in 1996. Under the state code, you can form it for 5 years the first go-around, 10 years every go-around after that. My company was hired in 2001 to do the renewal, which we did, and we did it for 10 years. 2011, the Blue Ribbon Commission came out, and I was not around. I was not aware of it, but I've read the entire document and took many excerpts from that document to show what has changed and maybe what has not changed since 2011. I also looked at the mixed-use overlay zone from the Downtown Specific Plan, which is really critical. It means that every new development doesn't have to do its own environmental impact report, because the specific plan takes care of that and also creates standards for new development. The Economic Strategic Plan that was done by Nelson and Dale, read that, and there's excerpts on that. The Transit District Specific Plan of 2018, and then Downtown El Cajon Partners financial statements, so I could have a better grasp as to what was going on. So what I looked at, let me get my notes here, and I started talking about the different 5 steps, and then I spaced a little bit here, but the 5 steps are really place. What is the place? What comes to somebody's mind when you say downtown El Cajon? Now, is it good? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it no image whatsoever? What you don't want to have is a negative image or a no image. And I think that they're increasingly, and I think the Magnolias had a lot to do with this, it's becoming, and I think that the PBID board over the last 15 years have done a lot to really build the arts. You have the Ray Street Arts District, and you have Art Alley, both which are, I think, great foundations for really attracting art here in El Cajon. So the first thing is the place. How do you build the place and the concept of the place? The second one is, if you have a place, how do you finance the improvements? How do you manage the whole thing? You can't do it just with going around asking for donations. That's why the whole PBID law was formed in the first place. It became a mandatory assessment district from the property owners that are generating benefit from those funds. Third, and my experience has been in forming so many districts, is not all the districts are entrepreneurial. They only survive based upon their exact property assessments, nothing more than that. And I think that it's not fulfilling to make sure that you can leverage the money that you have to try to get other grants. And I would tell you that the County Board of Supervisors does a lot in terms of grants for these different districts all throughout the county, and it should be something that's looked at. The next point is politics and timing. Are the politics and timing there? It seems as though through the city manager's office, the politics, and through the city council initiating the review of downtown, the city council has demonstrated that both the city manager and city council wants to see something maybe elevated a little bit more, or a more vibrant downtown, and trying to get a greater critical mass of restaurants, retail, et cetera. And the last thing has to do with the overall management of it, and that's how do you leverage what you have? How do you build great public spaces? We have the best weather in the country, and I love the mural that you have behind there, and it looks like Avatar, but it's really great. It shows what San Diego can be after a good rainy season. So I think that you look at walkability, you look at sustainability, you look at all these things, that making sure that you have enough trash cans, all these things that are laid out. It gets a little warmer here than perhaps on the coastal areas, but there's nothing that can help that better than trees. And so the more trees you have, hot days, people sit under the sun. On the cold days, they can sit outside, and they can sit in the sun. That's where the movable chairs and tables come from. So when I looked at the Blue Ribbon Commission, certain things jumped out at me. And I know Scott Barnett, and Scott Barnett was the gentleman who did the report. And if all of you haven't read it, I would encourage you to do it. And it did have Darryl Priest, who was the head and president of the Downtown Business Partners, was one of the authors of this report. And it says there were 2 points here that, point one, the CDC running the PBID is specifically apparent that at least 50% of the PBID dollars collected are used for overhead and approximately 25% are spent on car shows and concerts. This was not the Downtown Business Partners. This was the 501c3 that was managed by Claire Carpenter. I'm not sure how many of you remember that back then, but it had a number of employees, worked off of a lot of grants, but the orientation seemed to be drifting away from improving downtown El Cajon. The second one is recommended. There needs to be developers, builders, significant business leaders, and most important, commercial real estate specialists that can bring together the information necessary to determine a realistic vision and know how to implement it. This is critical too, because what you want to do if you have openings, if some place closes and you're looking, because I would tell you that in my experience in doing this, food drives people. Food always drives people. Once they're there, they'll figure out what else they want to do. But it's really important. We used to go to malls, and we used to get something to eat and then hang out, go to the movies, and it was all enclosed. Malls are having a much more difficult time post-COVID, particularly the movie theaters are having them. And I think a lot of times people will go to malls, and I always tell people they buy things that they don't need and with money they don't have. This is a lot of what has been going on in the United States for the last 50 years in malls. So I think that what we've seen is that we're in this incredible transition right now. Thank God you don't have a lot of office buildings here. And if you did, you'd be suffering from that. I was in New York City 2 weeks ago. A lot of the ground floor retail never came back. I did the financial district in San Francisco in 2019. 97% occupancy, great rates, escalation of prices for all those office buildings. They're now selling at 50% of what they bought them for in 2015 and 2016. And there's only about 30 to 35% of the office workers have come back. So COVID was not just a minor thing. In a lot of places that were heavily dependent upon office buildings, it was a major thing. And you don't have that problem here, which I think is great. They also mentioned in the Blue Ribbon that the car shows and concerts were an issue, and they thought that there was too much emphasis, and there was a question as to whether or not all the property owners in downtown, outside of maybe the restaurants, were benefiting from those car shows and the various concerts in the summer. They also had these key performance indicators, and they rated things. They said the CDC, which was the old Management Corporation, organizational effectiveness was determined to be low. The PBIT performance was determined to be low. Marketing promotions were considered medium. Grant projects, benefits to the city were low. Redevelopment activities and performance was low. And economic justification, audit, management, and the PBIT was also low. I didn't write this report. This is a report that was given to me that was done, I think, at the urging of the City Council in 2011. And a lot of these things helped me understand the background. When we go forward and we look at the history, and I didn't know this, I did a lot of work in El Centro, and I understood the function of the arcades, because many of the sidewalks in downtown El Centro are covered by arcades. Well, they're covered there because they can get 115 degrees. You also had the same system of arcades when the state took over this Main Street in in I think it was the 1920s. Economic development strategy. In the report, it was done by, again, Nadelson and Dale Group. They mentioned a few things, and I took two key parts of this. They positioned downtown El Cajon as a regional arts and entertainment center, which is absolutely right. It makes complete sense. This report said the strategy will build upon the existing assets, the Magnolia Performing Arts Centers, Prescott Promenade, and leverage the downtown's attractiveness as an entertainment destination. Secondly, the city's position, roles, and implementation. The city will begin by leading the investigation on how this strategy can relate to and best be coordinated with other downtown strategies. So that was the recommendation of an economic development report that was given to you, I think, a couple years ago. The next part of this, the action steps, and I think that I'm not going to go and read all this stuff, but it talks about first year, what expectations should be, and the partnership resources should be the Downtown El Cajon Business Partners, San Diego East County Chamber, East County CDC, Live Nation, local regional arts organizations, and housing and mixed-use developers. All these people are critical, I think, to the reestablishment of downtown El Cajon is really the downtown of the entire East County. We looked at some of the financial reports, too, and in writing as many management district plans as I've had, when a plan is written, you have to articulate what services will be provided. So the services usually fall into four categories. The categories that were written in the 2016 or 2017 PBID report talked about economic enhancements, environmental enhancements, management services, and then they had the total. Economic enhancements are those things that really build the economy. It could be business attraction and retention, new development, et cetera. Those are the economic enhancements. The environmental enhancements are dealing with homelessness, cleaning, pressure washing the sidewalks, landscaping, trash cans, and things like that. Those are things between the curb and the property line. What the management district plan lays out percentages of all these things, and what the management corporation should do to the greatest extent possible is adhere to what the plan was, because the plan was voted on by the property owners, and the property owners have an expectation that those services will be provided in the percentages that they were provided in the management district plan. So, for example, and I don't blame anybody, I'm just looking at it from an outsider and say that there's certain things that don't match the management district plan. Economic enhancements, which are the things that really try to build new businesses. What was allocated as per the management district plan was about 27%, or $150,000, should have been extended on economic enhancements. That could also be the car shows, art shows, and things like that. What was actually expended in 2022 was 50%. So it was almost double what was called for within the management district plan. Environmental enhancements, and those are things that people see, could be homeless sleeping there. And trust me, I see plenty of this being in Little Italy and being in downtown San Diego. You guys have nothing near the problem that downtown San Diego has in terms of homelessness and encampments. Environmental enhancements, which has to do with the cleaning, beautification, 44% was recommended. What was spent in 2022 was 32%. So it's a little shy on that. Management services, according to the plan, should have been $150,000 a year, or about another 27,000 or 27%. It was actually $98,000 and 18%. So it's important to look at what the plan called for and then what's actually going on. In the management plan review, I look at also the legislation. So what does the legislation say is supposed to happen? First part, and you look at the bottom, the management district plan shall contain all the following, and I jump to D, improvements and activities proposed for each year of operation of the district and the maximum cost thereof. And then E, the total amount proposed to be expended for improvements, maintenance, operations, debt service on each year of operations of the district. So when we write plans, and we write a lot of plans, I have to do, if it's a 5-year district, I have to do a projection on what those expenditures are on a 5-year basis. If it's a 10-year district, I have to do it for 10 years. So if you set a percentage, you say it's going to be X this year. The following year, if you have a 5% increase, it's 1.05 times X, and then it goes all the way down over 5 years or 10 years. So it's important to understand that that's what's in the legislation. You're supposed to lay out, and it was done in the plan, as to how much should be allocated. If you go to the next slide talks about when I did the plan in 2001, the annual budget was $513,000. One thing that we did when we did the plan in 2001 is we created what's called 3 benefit zones. And we also, and I strongly advocated that they go down to MTS, because I thought there would be, as you go up Main Street, I thought there would be a lot of new residential development around those trolley stops. I was somewhat wrong in 2001, but it's starting to happen. But 22 years later, right? MTS has now got a plan for that. So the annual budget was $513,000 then, and today it's roughly, or as the 2016 plan, it's about $560,000. The real issue that I found in looking at this, and when you do a management district plan and you do an assessment methodology, you cannot use assessed valuation because we have Proposition 13. I think all you know that if I bought a piece of property in 1968 and Vince bought it last year, we might be right next to each other, have the same lot size, the same building square footage, the same frontage, but he's paying a hell of a lot more in assessed valuation than I am. So you say, what does each parcel have in common? It has basically 3 things, sometimes 4. It has frontage, lot size, and building square footage, and sometimes it's use. So, for example, if 2 parcels are next to each other, one's a church and one's a hotel, you're not necessarily going to charge the church for marketing and promotion because that's not the job of the PBIT. But you do want people heads on beds, so you do want to promote that too. So in looking at this, I had established, and this is, I think, one of the more important issues in the plan, and this was not anything of the fault of the volunteers, but I think it's of the consultant. When you look at if a 100,000 square foot building goes into downtown, and I'm not sure how big the county courthouse is, but you look at something like that. If you have a low building square footage assessment, then you've got this whole new building, and these days it's not going to be office buildings, it's going to be residential. And if it's going to be residential, it's going to be people and their dogs. And I know that well because we have 2,000 dog licenses in Little Italy, and when I started there were probably 20 dogs there. So you have to be able to anticipate and mitigate the impact of that new building. From 2001, when it was 12.5 cents per square foot for building, and it was around, let's see, using my glasses again, 5 cents per square foot for a lot, and then there were 3 different zones, about $3.50 per lot for linear frontage. So you take those 3 assessments, you combine them, that becomes the weight of that parcel. 2016, the annual building assessments were dropped from 12.5 to about 8 cents per square foot for building and lot combined. The lot size was dropped a little bit to $4.75 cents, and there was 0 cost for linear frontage. So it explains to me why the budget might have been $513,000 in 2001, and it only went up to $560,000 20 years later. So, and to put it in perspective, Little Italy's first, we call maintenance assessment district in San Diego, was about this number. It's about $500,000 our first year. Little Italy right now, there's a lot of vertical development. It's about 1.2, closer to 1.3 now, because we took advantage of all the vertical development. If you only have lot size and frontage, it never changes. Lot is always lot, frontage is always frontage. It's only the improvement that changes, and you want to capture that. So I think that was something that I think has hurt the district by not providing a lot more revenue that are coming in. Going to the next, excuse me. There we go. I did a survey, and I'm just going to run through this quickly, and you can take a look at this in your, I did this in 2001. We had almost 61% of the property owners of lot size respond to the survey. Almost 50% of the linear frontage responded to the survey, and then 48% of the building owners responded to the survey. Why is that important? Because when you construct a budget, you have to look at lot size, linear frontage, and building square footage. So I break it all down on that basis. At that point, on security, 65% believe the area was safe, however, suffers a tremendous image problem as an unsafe district. 83% believe the district still has a homeless or transient problem. This is 2001. So you can also fast forward a lot of this, and this is not unique to El Cajon. It happens in a lot of places. But this 63% also continued the PBID funding in 2001, so it was renewed for another 10 years. The other one that I wanted to look at is the bottom right-hand corner. The top 4 priorities listed in a multiple choice selection were as follows. Number 1 was public safety, providing security, dealing with homelessness. That was number 1 in 2001. Number 2, identification and attraction of new businesses. Number 3, maintenance of the area, including daily sidewalk sweeping, tree planting and maintenance. And then number 4, marketing and promotion. Going to the next slide. Let's see. Which doesn't seem to want to work here. I'm going to go to the, if I can get the tech guy, space. Thank you. Sorry, that was my blow it. Management District Plan, this was in 2001, and you can see the way it was broken down. They were under what was called the Main Street program. I don't know if any of you remember that, but Main Street was based upon 4 concepts of the way you organize business districts anywhere in the country. And they're not necessarily assessment districts, but they used economic restructuring, which can include parking, security, transportation, maintenance, and things like that. And at that point, we put 31% of the budget into that. It was $161,000. Design, beautification, and maintenance, $119,000, almost $120,000, 23%. So you had 54% of the budget was just dedicated to those 2 things, which would now be called environmental improvements. Promotions and marketing had 18%, about $80,000. Organization, which was the PBID management, was about 24%, or $124,000, and then we had a reserve contingency of $17,000. That was from 23 years ago. Going to the next page. And I'm using my handout because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so I need that help. So under 2016, you'll see that there was a change. The economic enhancements, which business promotion and marketing, about 26%. Environmental enhancements, clean and safe, about 44%. Management services, about 27%, or $150,000, giving you a total budget. This is not atypical. Some areas, like I'm doing a district in Sausalito right now, they really want no maintenance. They just want marketing and promotion and do events, because that's where their orientation is. Going to the next page, we can see that I did a comparison between what the amount expended in 21-22 was versus the management district plan. And I've already gone over this, but this is just showing that to the greatest extent possible, anybody that functions under a management district plan should be following the percentages of that. Then we also went into what has happened over the last 23 years. So we did a map, and I sent one of my staff members out to look at street trees, street lights, and bike racks, and trash receptacles, because these are what really make a district. So the first one was the tree map, and you can see all the green dots, and they're basically in the core. But as you go west, we still have, that's benefit zone 3, if I'm not mistaken. There's no trees per se, and they're part of the district, and they should get the same benefits, or maybe at a lesser extent than the core area. Next one we looked at was the pedestrian lights and bike racks, and I understand that they probably ended because redevelopment ended, and it didn't give the city council the ability as a redevelopment agency to fund all those improvements. So basically, at 2013, everything came to a screeching halt. You can see on the west side of the district, there's very little in terms of lighting, which is concerning because if people want to walk and they live in downtown and they want to walk down Main, there's not a lot of lights for them to walk down Main at night. And that's extremely important. The next one we did was looking at trash cans. A lot of heavy trash cans on Main, not so much on Magnolia, and virtually none on the western part. Also, if people are walking from the trolley stop, we always put them on corners because that's where people stop, and if they got something in their hand, they can put it in there. But that's something that I think should be tried to be dealt with in the future. And in the conclusions and the recommendations that are made, and I think Vince did a good job of going over some of those, but the ones that I made as part of the overall. Number one, expand the board to include traffic generators, which would be new developers at Magnolia. Include the Marriott. I mean, the Marriott should definitely be on the board. Live Nation should definitely be on the board. These are the real generators of traffic. I think restaurants are also, but I mean, the Magnolia is really a great asset in this city. And it's a great theater. This is a walkable neighborhood. It's not like San Francisco where you go to a theater and have to walk straight uphill and kill yourself walking 2 blocks on California Street doing that. So it's important to get the traffic generators. MTS should even be on the board. They're paying into the district, and they can update you on plans. Second, work with key commercial real estate brokers to bring new restaurants into downtown. Currently, there's 18 sit-down restaurants and 6 fast food restaurants. I got that off the website. And after 25 years of a functioning BID, the downtown should have a greater concentration of restaurants because restaurants, again, are what drive people. 3, create a functioning and working committee system. Right now, it's all falling to the board to make all the decisions unless they have task forces or a meeting outside of the board. 4, create a hospitality task force to promote local restaurants and cafes. This was critical when we did, in Little Italy, we created a hospitality task force during COVID. We had 40 participants on a regular basis because remember at that point, people didn't know when you could open again. You had to serve by delivering people. All your employees were laid off. Nobody can come and sit down in the restaurant. Then we went to 25%, then we went to 50%. So in order for us to do what we did on India Street in Little Italy is we worked closely with Mayor Faulkner, and we worked on all those parklets. And we came up from Little Italy with our own plan for a parklet, gave it to Development Services, and said, pre-approve this, and we'll give it to the 25 restaurants that want to do this. And that's exactly what happened. So they didn't have to pay for their own architect, their own designer. They had pre-approved plans by the city of San Diego. All they had to do was construct them. And the city then allowed them to operate, and some of them are still operating right now. That's what the value of the hospitality task force was. And it was a crisis, and it really helped. But I think the more the restaurants know each other, and the more the cafes, they all work together, I think it'll just strengthen them, and they'll be able to ideally bring in more. 5, prioritize Art Alley as a functioning piece of downtown. And, you know, it's great over there. I mean, we don't have anything like that in Little Italy or in the other districts I operate, except for downtown Glendale. The Art Alley is there. The Ray Arts Street is there. It's just a question of activating that. And I think that there's so much you can do with art because, again, on a 10 to 15-mile radius, you can throw in everything from, you know, all the way up to Viejas, to San Diego State. There's a massive population within a 15-mile radius. My recommendation is to convert the current Owners Association, which is the Downtown El Cajon Business Partners, to a C3 because the ability for you to get grants is much greater as you're a 501c3 as compared to a 501c6. 7, consider expansion of the down El Cajon Boulevard on Magnolia and Main. You have new residential coming in on El Cajon Boulevard. It's right outside the district. It's not in the district. So people that are living there, unlike the development that Darryl Priest did, I guess 20 years ago or so, or 15 years ago, great row homes at Magnolia and Main, they're in the district. They're paying into the district. These people are going to be able to live there and not have to contribute anything to the district, even though they're going to be walking into downtown. The best thing for any downtown, again, we're not in the era of office buildings, nor will we be for a long time, is high-density residential. The more high-density residential, the more you'll build this internal group that's going to create demand within your downtown. 8, hire ongoing staff, either an executive director or contracted management. 9, hire professional cleaning and landscaping company or do it in-house by the employees of the corporation. 10, begin annual seasonal displays. We did this, you know, for whether it's for Christmas, and you've always had the Mother Goose Parade, which is something that is really associated with downtown El Cajon. I would tell you, we just did the Starlight Parade, and we did in downtown downtown Chula Vista. We lit a Christmas tree in conjunction with the Starlight Parade. It had been dormant for 4 years because of COVID. We had 60,000 people at this Christmas tree lighting. Mayor Wells was very, very happy. I mean, it went on for like 2 hours, but it's there was all this pent-up demand. People wanted to do that, and they wanted to see a Christmas tree lighting as well as the parade. And so annual seasonal displays, whether they be for spring, summer, fall, are really important. And then 5, move forward with the East County Night Market. And Vince talked about the other things that the city can be doing. What I did now on a lot of these, I just put the pictures in, and you can see we see this all the time in downtown San Diego, people deciding that the park is really theirs, and they're going to set up their little umbrella and their little tent. But, you know, the feel of downtown with 2 stories, and this obviously used to be mixed use, at least in my mind, because people used to live upstairs. The feel of the downtown is really great. The park, this shows some of the permanent seating. I think if you had tables, chairs, and umbrellas, you get a lot more participation in the park. The new residential right outside of downtown is those people are going to be spending their money in downtown. This new development at Main and Maple, which I think is a great gateway project, unlike the empty lot that you have right now at Magnolia and Madison, which could also be another great project. But this developer really should be involved in the board. They're doing something that I think is going to demonstrate to developers outside of downtown El Cajon that this is a good place to invest. MTS, Vince, do we know how many units they're planning on building yet? Or
It's over 200 with both phases of the project. So it kind of fluctuates, but right now it's 230, something like that.
Could translate, once filled, to 300 to 400 people. And if they want to walk to downtown, they're going to walk down at night a dark street with no trash can. So it's really important that since they're paying into the district, to tie them in to the district to the greatest extent possible. You know, you have some problems of closed up buildings and chain link fences, and we know that's there because they don't want people sleeping outside or doing other things right outside their place. Other places like this is more on the periphery. This is the exception, not the rule in downtown. Art Alley, which I think the redevelopment agency must have done some really good work to create this. Alleys are great. And if they're done right, they can really be attractions to people for outdoor dining, particularly in the evening hours. You know, again, the Main Street Music Store, it's part of the whole art element of downtown, which is great. The outdoor dining, whether it's at Port Rivor or some of the other places, outdoor dining is great. The city has been very liberal in the extension of the sidewalks and using those. But when people drive by, they see people, and they see people enjoying themselves and eating, which is the best advertisement you can have. The whole form of downtown is really cool. It's one story. All the buildings don't look the same, and there aren't a lot of really big openings, so it means that you're going to get a lot more activity in 100 linear feet than you would normally. This is also really well done right next to the park. Sultan's is got a lot of rave reviews according to what I understand. And then, again, trees, lights, umbrellas, outdoor dining, all this is the stuff that you want. And the more you can have of that going up and down Main, the better. Again, the 2-story buildings, and then the sign. We call these landmark signs. This was put in the right place. I can't tell you how many times people have put signs in the wrong place. This is the gathering spot. This is where everybody becomes a focal point. This is where you try to put all the activities. You would not want to put them at one end or the other end. This tells you you're in the center of downtown. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions from city manager, assistant city manager, mayor, city council. But I just wanted to do this overview, look at it, and then just give you, based upon my experience in doing this, what I thought might help things in downtown El Cajon.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me see if there's some questions for you.
Thank you very much. Is the one in Chula Vista, is that called 3rd Avenue?
We've changed the name to downtown because we usually don't name business districts after streets.
Got it.
So now it's being marketed and promoted as downtown Chula Vista.
But it was.
It was,
okay,
yes.
That's why I remember, because I went to a Padres event down there.
Last year.
Yeah, and there was, I don't know, a ton of people.
Yep.
It was super fun. So
Really close with the Padres, and they wanted to partner with us. So
yeah,
we brought them in.
and the space was
it's
there.
It's going to happen again this year, too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I brought the kids.
And Peter Seidler was there last year, too.
Oh, man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's so I guess my question, it looks like we're doing some things. We got some things right. 3 out of the 6 we got checked off. We just had a Super Bowl, so in a football analogy, I'll call it Third Avenue, Little Italy. I look at downtown La Mesa as a success story. It used to be Antique Row, and they did some stuff there. Where does El Cajon sit? Are we on? If the touchdown is to look like, if the end zone is to look like Third Avenue or Little Italy or La Mesa downtown, and the work that we have to do to get there, are we on the 50-yard line? Are we on the 10-yard line? Because it looks like a lot of stuff to get to a thriving area. What, in your assessment, what would you say?
So I would tell you 2 things. I would say it's content and form and supply and demand. So the form of your downtown is great. It's got a great footprint, and I think the more it extends, because I don't know how long, for example, Jerome's Furniture will be there. I know the Navarres pretty well, and they're looking to get much more into real estate development, residential. And the same with, you have A1 storage up there, too. There's some great footprints that could really provide a lot of dense housing. So that's, I think, the content is what you need is to fill the form, which is your downtown, with new content. There's places that can really be activated. So I think that that's a positive. And from the supply and demand standpoint, I think the supply is here. Like if you're an artist, this would be a great place to be. But the demand's not there yet. So the demand is based upon social media, marketing events, and things like that. So I think that if you're on, I think you guys are close to doing it because you've done all the infrastructure work. Okay. Now it's easier to fill buildings than it is to build buildings.
Got it.
So I think that you're in a really good position. I know downtown La Mesa pretty well. I'm a native San Diegan. I grew up in the college area. And they go up and down and up and down and up and down, and I've seen it. I think you guys are much in a better position right now than downtown La Mesa, to be quite honest. I think that you have a lot more amenities to deal with. They have a trolley, you have a trolley. It's not so close, but you have direct access to the freeway as they do. But I think it's the residential that's really going to make the difference in downtown El Cajon versus La Mesa. They don't have the footprint to accommodate a lot more residential. And again, when I started in Little Italy, there were 17 condos. There's 2,000 condos and 3,000 apartments now, and 38-story buildings being built. So all those people want to walk downstairs and go into the stores that are within walking distance. They all want to do that. And eventually, ideally, you get a grocery store back like you had originally.
Got it.
So I think that you guys are really moving in a good direction. I think that downtown El Cajon business partners are moving in. I just think it needs to be expedited a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Michelle, did you want to ask a question? No. Steve?
Thanks, Marco. Very thorough.
Thanks.
How did you get people in Chula Vista and Little Italy to change?
That's a great idea. That's great. In Little Italy, I'm telling you that when people used to tell me that, oh, well, you're all Italian, so you all get along. And I said, so are you kidding? It's like there's one guy who's pissed off because 30 years ago, his sister was ditched by somebody who was supposed to take her to the prom, and he's still pissed off about it. And that's the way Little Italy and India Street was when we first started working. But we said it's not about who you like and who you don't like. It's about Little Italy. And so we said, get over that stuff that you have problems with and look at the bigger picture, because if it's a bigger picture, you'll all do well, you'll all make money, you'll all have employees, you'll really be an economic development engine. So in Little Italy, we were lucky that we didn't have multiple organizations. There was nobody, so it was just us. So we created an old business improvement district and then a property business improvement district, a community benefit district. And the boards had 28 to 30 people ever since 1997. We've never not had a quorum. There's a lot of enthusiasm because we build a lot of public spaces. We say this is the project we want to do. And we don't rely on plans. We rely on opportunities. So if the developer, for example, the corner in Main and Magnolia said, how can I help? We said, why don't you notch out the corner of your building so we can put a public space there, tables, chairs, and umbrellas, so when people are coming in, either they're coming up Magnolia or they're coming east on Main, they see activity on that corner. So we've been lucky in doing that, but it's all about the board and the board members and staff. Sometimes, and the same thing happened in Chula Vista. You could have strong board, weak staff, strong staff, weak board. So what we try to do is strong board, strong staff. So the staffing was problematic in Chula Vista up until I think we got hired, and the city actually requested that we respond to the RFP, which we did. So we altered the board, we changed the relationship with the city, and we just tried to take everything that we learned in Little Italy and the other areas that we manage and tried to create a much better relationship with the city and tried to enhance those funds. Their budget is almost identical to your budget, but last year, instead of our budget being like $550,000, it was almost $800,000 because of the grants and the activities that we did, because we don't believe that any activity should occur without breaking even. It should actually make money. So, and we brought in a farmer's market there too. So there's a lot of things that we learned in Little Italy that we were able to replicate in Chula Vista.
It sounds like one of the things you're saying is residential development is a key to actually have the bodies live there to create the demand to walk for services that are needed. Whether
The
it's,
only way you will revitalize the downtown is with residential.
so you're saying landowners have to give up their one-story building and develop it into something taller.
I'm saying that, and this happened in Little Italy. Little Italy was the parking lot for downtown, if some of you remember that. They would park there, and they would walk into the high-rises in downtown. So there were so many parking lots in Little Italy. India Street was basically 2 blocks of retail. Once the price got over, and this is back in 1990, once the price got over $100 a square foot, everybody started selling. So you hit this tipping point, at which point people say, well, if someone's willing to offer me this, you have a downtown specific plan, they know what their entitlements are, you've got good infrastructure here already, and so they say, yeah, it's worth me doing this 3-4-story mixed-use development. So I think that the residential is the only thing, and I think you'll see it all throughout the cities that survived. A lot of residential in San Francisco. However, in the financial district, there's almost no residential. And that's what really killed the financial district. And if you go to New York City, Midtown Manhattan has really suffered, but the Chelsea district, where there's a lot of residences, really survived and they were able to get through. So that's why I always say that residents, because they're the people that want to walk downstairs, spend money, and support local businesses. That is different than it was 6 or 7 years ago. So residences are key.
And there must be some transition, because if you had to close a restaurant to develop it up, leaving the ground floor for a new restaurant, there's no money coming in for the owner at that time.
Right.
There must be some phasing of this or incentivizing.
Or someone sells the property and then the people get their plans done and they're already capitalized in order to build that building. But I think what's going on El Cajon Boulevard is extremely exciting. I mean, that new development there, and I think you guys know how many used car lots you have or other basically large parcels of land on El Cajon Boulevard, that the closer they are to Main Street, I think that's your reservoir of residential. And I think you can do a lot with that. And maybe even going up Main towards the freeway. There's still a lot of opportunities that are empty lots that can be transformed into residential. So that's where I think the opportunities are.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councilman.
How far are people willing to walk to shop? Let's say the development on El Cajon Boulevard right now. Will they be going to downtown El Cajon to meet their needs?
I would tell you that most people won't walk more than a quarter of a mile. And so that's not, I mean, it's not a quarter of a mile, it's much closer. The issue is, at least on the south side of Main Street, that's where you have some vacancies. People don't like walking by vacancies because it's like no man's land. So the more you can get the density at Main and Magnolia going on the south side, going westward into residential development, I think it'll make it an easy walk. Because if people see there's landscaping, there's nice lighting, there's other people that might be walking out of apartments or condos or whatever, they're going to feel much more comfortable walking. But when you have gaps that's what leads to the problems where people say, I'm not going to walk on that block. Sometimes people will actually walk across the street because there's more density on that side and then walk back across the street. But a quarter mile is usually, I think, pretty safe. I think that the trolley stop is kind of a stretch. But, again, if that became a much more enhanced corridor, people wouldn't mind doing that walk.
I agree with you on the trees and the lighting. That's a big deal.
Hi. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
A couple quick questions. New restaurants. I agree with you. I'd love to see new restaurants. But how do we get them here? Most of the chain restaurants want their own plot of land, and they want it to be in a certain kind of a neighborhood. It doesn't seem like your chain restaurants would want to come to downtown. So what do you think we should do?
Well, we know that from the work we've done in Little Italy, a lot of those people that might have been successful in one place are looking at opening up a second place or a third place. Someone's got to be saying, come here. So I think 2 or 3 are now opening up on 3rd Avenue in Chula Vista because of the relationship that they had in Little Italy now they realize the same management system is in place. I think that's why I had mentioned the hospitality task force. I think the restaurants need to be the biggest cheerleaders for more restaurants, because I'm telling you, the density of restaurants does not hurt restaurants.
Oh, agreed.
Because if one place is crowded, they go next door. Or I went to see Pat Metheny in October, and we were here too late for going to a restaurant, but when we came out at, I guess it was 10:30, 11 o'clock, nothing was open. My wife and I would have had a drink or done something, but everything was closed up. So I think that you need to attract a lot more of those businesses that used to staying open, maybe till 11 o'clock, particularly on concert nights, because people won't necessarily want to just get in their car and take off. This is a beautiful area, and it's attractive, and it's safe. And so I think it could be the restaurants and the management entity, whether it's a person or a company, need to be the one that says, here's this network. And you get some commercial real estate brokers that do nothing but trade in restaurants to be part of your board or advise you, because they'll tell people wanting to move LA, they're looking for a place, and then we need to sell the story about downtown El Cajon business partners need to be the ones to sell the story about downtown El Cajon and why it's a great place to invest.
What's your feeling about the professional cleaning? Where are we at in the scale of 1 to 10 or?
Well, I talked to Vince and Graham a lot, and so we look at the levels of service. I'm not sure that there's anything systematic, and I might be wrong. You don't have high-density pedestrian traffic at this point, but once you do, you're going to have a lot more trash. So I think that I'm not sure if it's done by a company or it's done by a service provider or whatever, but I think that you need to be doing systematic sidewalk and gutter sweeping, pressure washing, landscaping, all those things, because people walking around with vests that might say Downtown El Cajon Business Partners, they'll see those people as ambassadors, people that they can ask questions like, how do I get to the trolley stop? Or I'm looking for a new guitar, where do I go? Or what restaurants would you recommend? So having bodies on the street that are labeled through vests on a daily basis, I think is really critical. And I think there's money in the budget to do that.
Okay. Last question. When you say expand the board, what did you have in mind?
Well, I think that I had mentioned the Magnolia really needs to be on the board. I know that they're not a property owner, but the city who owns that property can designate them as their authorized representative for that entity. The Marriott needs to be on the board. And I think other people that might be large employers, whether it's a fitness club or whatever, should also be on the board, because they're people that attract new people. They have ideas about how to attract people because that's what they do for a living.
They're paying dues, right? So they have a presence in the Downtown Business Partners, right?
They're not on the board
because they're not, because remember the fees are based on property tax. So the local manager, he's not paying the property tax, and the owner owns many hotels around the state. He's probably not going to be involved, but having the local manager involved from the courtyard would be very useful on the board.
So
yes.
it's not a difficult thing to do, it's just inviting them.
Well, right now he's not legally allowed to be a board member based on the current bylaws of the way the organization is set up.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I didn't realize that, so thank you.
Well, and the Magnolia, too. The Magnolia, I think, they're a tenant, but if the city wanted to authorize them as a representative from the city, because the city, I guess, is paying 25% or something like that of the assessments in the district, Paris should really be on this board.
Yeah, we own that property. So.
Yes, I know. Yeah. That's why I said you designate them as an authorized representative for them to sit on the board. Because there should be things that, for example, if certain great artists are coming, and there's a lot, they've got a pretty great schedule, maybe you do banners that highlight those people up and down Main Street. Now, I know Joe Jackson is coming in June.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, one of my favorites too. And if you could do different pictures from his albums on banners, it sets the mood that this is the arts district. And please come to the Magnolia, spend money before you go to the Magnolia or after the Magnolia. But that's something that the Padres are looking at too. We're working with the Padres closely too. So when Billy Joel and Sting come there, maybe you do something where it's one banner is Billy Joel, another one is Sting. But you want to make people understand that this stuff is going on here. So they start to look at downtown in a different way.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I think, any more questions? Gary?
This is for the city manager. What will we have to do to set up a situation where the city could appoint, let's say, a representative from Live Nation and a representative from the Marriott to be on the board?
I'm not sure if the enabling ordinance that was voted by the property owners are the ones that established that rule. If that's the case, it would take a vote of the property owners. But if it's more of a bylaw situation, that was something that we could help effectuate. So we could create or initiate some bylaw changes to the way the current organization is set up.
Okay, I think that would be a good thing to do.
So, for example, in Little Italy, we used to have 2/3 property owners or their authorized representatives. 1/3 was called community at large. Community at large are people that might know the history of downtown El Cajon, but they don't own a business here and they don't own property, but they could be a wealth of information. They're a community at large, but business tenants are also community at large. So whether your percentage is 50-50, 60-40, 2/3, 1/3, you want to have the business owners on that board, because they're the ones that are talking to people on a day-to-day basis, and they see different things as perhaps a property owner who might be a landlord that's not there on a day-to-day basis.
And how do they get onto the board in your case?
In our case, we send out nomination forms every year to all property owners and business owners, and we say if you want to be on the board, you need to have paid your fees, whether, God bless you, business improvement or the property assessments. You need to attend board meetings and you need to serve on a committee of the board. Those are the requirements. And so we have a pretty stable board, but people know we have open meetings and we'll probably have 35, 40 people at every meeting with 30 of them being board members. It's an open forum, and the more people get involved, they said, I'd like to be on that board. So they follow the process, they can be on the board.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, Phil, go ahead.
This is more for city manager, assistant city manager. And we've got a lot going on in the city. We got the Hunden partners coming to Parkway Plaza to do an analysis, and we got Mr. Lamandry doing an evaluation. And there's a lot of potential. And, going back to our goal setting session, the idea of an economic development manager, I kind of just see a need to kind of loop in, and that's the head of all of this and implementing and strategic. I just don't want to be in a position where we're ready, fire, aim. I want to come from a position where we're strategic about where we invest and that nature. So I kind of see the economic development manager position, complementing and maybe doing some things with this report. And so just want to inject that into the conversation, that it seems like that position might fit somewhere in all of this. So that would be my feedback. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else?
Okay. Mayor, I had two things based on some questions that were asked. Mr. Goebel asked a question about what was it that took to get everyone kind of pulling in the right direction, or at least changing some stuff. And I met with Mr. Lamandry, it was actually years ago, and I was interested in the farmer's market, and he said something pretty powerful. He probably doesn't even remember this, but the farmer's market in Little Italy doesn't exist for the farmer's market. The farmer's market exists to increase property values. And so everything that they do in Little Italy or other districts has a focus, has a singular focus. And if it doesn't increase property values, then why do it? And so it's looked through that lens. And I think once people started seeing that property values started going up, and then they could monetize that, all of a sudden they didn't care about their brother-in-law that dissed their sister years ago because their property values went up. So I think if we can think in that term, if we as a city and as our downtown district starts thinking singularly about what is our one goal, and then we just focus everything on that, and if it doesn't accomplish that goal, then we shouldn't do it. I think that will help sort of coalesce the energy. The second thing, Mayor, you talked about restaurants, and Vince, Chris Berg, and I actually spent quite a lot of time with a couple restaurateurs in San Diego County, specifically in the downtown area, and we asked the question point blank: why are you not here in El Cajon? And I thought I knew what the answer was, but what their response was not what I thought. The answer is this: a restaurant has fixed costs. Rent, or the value of the property, labor, and materials that go into it. We do offer a little bit lower rent than, say, Little Italy or Bankers Hill or North Park. But all the other costs are exactly the same. Labor is labor, steaks are steaks, alcohol is alcohol costs. The factor that they don't know if they can trust is the customer base. They know if they have a successful restaurant in Bankers Hill and they move 3 blocks over into Hillcrest or down University Avenue into North Park, they know that they're going to still get the customer base. They don't know that they're going to get that here. So when Mr. Lemandry said focusing our current restaurants as a group to go out and talk to those other groups, and if we had staff to help facilitate those conversations, that could be the hurdle over that we need to jump over to get to there. And frankly, we just may have to provide some economic incentive too to get the first couple in that are sort of that fresh blood. So those are just some thoughts I had about restaurants and some of the, I guess, the knowledge that we've gained over the last couple of months.
Sorry, just to piggyback off of Mr. Mitchell, I think the market's there for restaurants. If you look at the Junction off in Granite Hills, any day of the week, it's packed. They just expanded. If you look at Texas Roadhouse, I mean, it's impossible to get a table there. So I think there's a market for it. People want to go. It's just a matter of, like you're saying, hey, get the word out. You know, so
we need those
concerted effort.
We need those successful restaurateurs to go talk to other restaurateurs and say, it's working for us. This is how we did it.
Yeah.
You should come out here too.
And if we had the Junction here in downtown El Cajon, it'd be blowing up like it would over there. It's just a difference of location by a mile.
Exactly.
So,
okay, that's interesting. More questions? All right. Great presentation. I really appreciate all your time.
Thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking the initiative to have a study done of downtown Oakland. I've learned a lot. I think that your assets way outweigh your liabilities, and so then you just accentuate the assets and you move forward on that. I want to thank the city manager and the assistant city manager too for all the help, and Kathy too for spending some time with us and having us understand the finances and everything like that. So I'm optimistic about downtown El Cajon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much. Okay. Yes. Yeah, you don't think he's going to come up under public comment?
On this.
Gabe, before we go to public comment, would you mind coming up? Councilmember Kendrick wants to ask you a couple of questions.
Just so everyone knows, Gabe's family took a big risk years ago opening up a restaurant in El Cajon when no other restaurant was here.
Correct.
I see him as the king of successful restaurants in downtown, so your opinion means a lot to me. First of all, maybe the car show, how that affects your business. Is Magnolia helping? Is there any way we can get?
Well, I'm Gabriel Maruja. I'm glad you gave me a chance to speak. In 1998, we moved here when the ball was at the 5-yard line. We opened up between F Street and a food kitchen. Some people were telling me, "What are you doing down there?" We saw the opportunity. The city sold us the lot for us to put a patio in there. We worked with the city. No other restaurants were coming, so we opened up another restaurant in 2002, the Downtown Cafe. Once again, we bought the lot from the city. We were hoping more people would start coming down as what we did. We were taking risks, but it just didn't happen. Like what you said, the Magnolia does great for us on local shows. What I mean about local shows, if it's like a cover band or people from El Cajon, if they know that band, we'll be busy because they know us. If it's from other cities, we're really slow. It doesn't do anything for us. What does for us is the car shows. We get 2,000 people here. They come here and they stay. They go up and down the street. We thought those car shows would attract more restaurants, more businesses, because they see everybody in the street. Have you been out there on a Wednesday? That's the only time you see people walking up and down the streets. Of course, our major festivals, people walk up and down the streets, but the car shows bring them weekly. Even for the Magnolia, we get some people. I remember when they were going to do the Magnolia, they talked about opening to Main Street, where people come in, where people can see them. Right now, they're coming through the back. You know, when they leave, we have some people that might want to go for a drink, but everybody else just leaves. So that is a problem. Once we opened up here, I thought I was going to be open until midnight. The street's dead by 8. You know, I have entertainment. If you go the nights I have entertainment, that's the only thing going on up and down the street. Everything else it's done. So, any other questions?
What can we do to help?
Everything that was said. We need more restaurants, more housing. Those are the two major things that will bring people here. You go to La Mesa, you can walk from your house to there. Even Chula Vista, there's housing that's really close. You guys have been doing a great job building the housing up to here. Since we lost the redevelopment, everything has kind of slowed down. If we would have had the redevelopment all these years, we would be a different city right now. I think we just have to go back. Like you mentioned about having somebody in the development board and hitting all this stuff. That's what we need, help from the city to do all that. Like they said, you build it, they will come. I might have to open up another place if nobody else is coming. I got a couple little places where I've been trying to advertise people to come. Guy opened up a coffee shop, ice cream shop. I know that's what we need. That's what we've been doing. Since I joined the board, we wanted to raise property values by opening up restaurants, having car shows, having events. Our property values are going up, and it'll attract more people. So it was good to hear this, but I think we just kind of have gone stagnant since redevelopment died on us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gabe.
Sure thing.
All right, I think I'll go to public comment.
We have one card, sir, from Kathy Zeman.
Hey, Kathy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
So, by the way, before I start, Marriott's totally eligible to be on our board. I'd like
great.
to say that.
Good to know.
So, Mr. Mayor, council members, Vince, Graham, Morgan, Angela, we do not support the idea of changing from a PBID to a community benefits district. The report states that the PBID law has a large fundamental flaw in that it requires a petition signed by 50% of the weighted property owners to trigger a mail-in ballot. We don't see this as a flaw. If 50% of the weighted property owners do not think that it's a good idea to continue the PBID, then maybe it shouldn't continue. The community benefit district takes power out of the hands of the individual property owners, and it gives more power to government and large property owners. It only requires that 30% of the property owners sign the petition to have the mail-in vote. That's a really low threshold when you consider that the city of El Cajon, County of San Diego, MTS, and SDG&E own 24% of the weighted properties. So it makes it too easy to obtain that 30% that's necessary with only a few other owners agreeing to have the vote. There are over 300 properties in our district, and most of those property owners would be grossly underrepresented by this method. Another good thing about the PBID is that it does have to be recertified every 5 to 10 years. This is a chance for property owners to reverse course if the PBID is no longer of benefit to them. The Community Benefits District does not have any term limits unless the City Council were to put limits on it. The Cajon Classic Cruise and the dinner and summer concert seasons are well run and they're well attended. As Gabe said, we get a lot of traffic into the restaurants, both at the car show and at the concerts. A lot of people go to the restaurants before the concerts, some go after the concerts. I would like to say that El Cajon is known as the place for concerts and car shows. One of our goals as a PBID organization is to bring customers into the city. During these events, the restaurants probably benefit more than some of the other businesses. But especially during the car shows, there are people walking on the street past the businesses for a few hours. The businesses have the opportunity to have car show specials, to put merchandise out on the sidewalk, and to do anything else to attract people into their businesses. We also offer free vendor booths to anybody in the district at any of our events. Our concert series is one of the best in San Diego County. We have top bands from Southern California playing each week. We have people coming in from all around the county to attend our concerts, and I believe we are known as a great concert destination. We have an MC that talks about the upcoming shows at the Magnolia and other events like the Alley Cat Art Walk, America on Main Street, Haunt Fest, and Holiday Lights on Main. The Magnolia has been very generous in donating tickets to our upcoming shows for us to give away at our concerts, and our audience is their audience at the concerts. So we really push the Magnolia in the announcements at our concerts, on our website, and our weekly email blasts, which go out to over 6,000 people. I do agree with the report about where the money is spent. When the district was created, the agreement set out how much money is going to be spent for economic, environmental enhancements, and then also for management and reserves. The board has done everything we could do to minimize our overhead, and this has enabled us to use additional funds to provide tangible services to property owners. In theory, we would love to spend more money making the city pretty, but this is what we have done. We have built a permanent stage at the promenade, installed festival lighting in the promenade and down Main Street, with the light bulb colors being changed out 4 times a year to reflect the seasons. We purchased the Statue of Liberty replica that is featured during America on Main Street, and we have a 35-foot Christmas tree and stage that is installed at the corner of Main and Magnolia for the Christmas season, as well as lighted wreaths on the street poles from Magnolia and Main Street. And we do have a Christmas tree lighting. I think everybody here has probably attended that. Good. However, theory is one thing, and reality is another. The fact is that because of the homeless and other problems we experience in our district, we had to reprioritize clean and safe and security as major goals of the PBID. Beautification is a luxury, but keeping downtown as clean as possible and safe as possible is a necessity. And, of course, we all hope these circumstances change in the future, and maybe by bringing in more housing and doing that redevelopment, that could change things, and that would also change the priorities of the downtown El Cajon business partners. To implement the plan in this report would require the maximum allowed increases in taxes to the property owners every single year. The report also includes taxing residential properties, which we currently exclude. That was actually at the request of staff or city management back in 2011 when this got passed. There wasn't a lot of housing back then, so I think we could entertain that in the future. The report states that we are underfunded, not for what we're doing right now. The board does not think that it is a bad thing that we have only raised taxes once in the almost 15-year tenure. We see this as an accomplishment that is in line with what Darrell Priest and the Blue Ribbon Commission laid out in their report in 2011. I think most of you know that until last November, Darrell Priest was the president of our board. So we were running things the way he saw fit. Implementing the recommendations of this report would now include taxing homeowners. It would increase the amount that all property owners are taxed every single year. In turn, the cost would probably be passed down to the businesses in rent increases. So you have to think about how you would feel about your taxes being raised 5% every single year. And some districts are raising rates by 7 and 8%, they say, to adjust for inflation. There is no legal set limit. It's not easy to convince it was not easy to convince property owners to recertify the district after the Blue Ribbon Commission report. We did it by promising that we would be fiscally responsible and only raise taxes when absolutely necessary and the minimum amount necessary. And we have held true to that promise through almost the 15 years. The reports about including El Cajon Boulevard into the district to create even more capital, this type of mega organization has been tried and it failed before. The CDC became a massive organization with 52 employees and most of its money being spent on management and administrative costs. They raised taxes every single year. They received grants. And they still did not have enough money to run their organization. They were at the city council meetings asking for additional funding several times a year. And when the city folded, they left owing the city of El Cajon tens of thousands of dollars. They did not provide the Clean and Safe program that we do and that we are working to improve on. They had ambassadors that walked downtown and talked to people. They did not have security patrols at night. They did have a massive board. I believe there were about 20 to 25 people on that board. And at most, there were 1 or 2 board members that actually paid money into the PBID. It was really easy for the rest of the board members to vote for tax increases and any other notions that the executive director came up with because it wasn't their money. They got involved in real estate, they got involved in design review, and they got involved in a lot of other things that this report suggested. None of those things ran smoothly. None of those things were truly successful. And those things contributed to the downfall of the CDC and almost the elimination of any kind of PBID. While the board is open to new ideas, and we recognize that there's always room for improvement, I think there's definitely things in that report that we could adopt and use, but we're not in favor of taking a step backward to try something that has already failed. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thanks, Kathy. I think there's probably a few questions.
Sure.
So, Gary, you want to start?
Oh, first of all, Kathy, I want to thank you and Mark Clifton for volunteering untold number of hours with no pay to keep downtown in good shape.
Thank you.
I mean, I talked to Kathy a lot over the last few years about, things that need to be done downtown, mostly security. I agree with a lot of things that Kathy has to say. I think it's a good thing that if you're going to tax somebody, they have a say every 5 or 10 years if you're really worth the tax money that you're getting. I mean, I'm kind of a anti-tax guy to begin with, so I wouldn't feel good paying out as a property owner paying out taxes and I have no say on whether I'm getting my money's worth. That's kind of what America's all about.
Right.
So I certainly agree with you on that. There are other things like building more residential. If we build residential, they will come because there's a tremendous demand for residential right now, and not office buildings, as the previous speaker said. So I think with a few changes that everybody agrees with, I think Downtown Partners could do even a better job. And I think their Downtown Partners is doing a great job right now.
Thank you.
And I see downtown absolutely packed on car show days. In fact, I was there eating at one of the restaurants outdoors, and a guy was talking with his son, and he tells a little boy, "This is what a downtown is supposed to look like." And I says, "Wow, this is really great. We're doing something here." So, I mean, the concerts, I have friends that come from all over San Diego County to the concerts, and then they go have dinner somewhere. And I would like to see more people from the Performing Arts Center going to the restaurants. I don't know if Gabe can work with them and get the, have some sort of promotion or the other restaurant owners, or maybe we need a lighted walkway that goes downtown, something like at Disney World, where we have the lights under the little sidewalk thing there on the fiberglass lights, and it's all lit up and you feel really safe.
Yeah.
So, I think that downtown has tremendous potential. And if we get some more residential down there, people that have a lot of disposable income because they're probably going to pay $600,000 for a condo, I think we could have a real revitalization, or I should say continue the revitalization of downtown. When I moved here in 1988, my wife wouldn't even go downtown because it was so scary looking.
Yeah.
And that's completely changed. So I think we're in the right direction, and maybe we need a few tweaks here and there.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
More questions, comments? Well, Kathy, so I tried to keep an open mind through all this. Maybe I see it wrong, but most of the things he talked about, I think things we're already doing, right?
Those are things that we're doing, and like I said, we can reprioritize. Like if we get more residential downtown, we could look at also taxing those since they're taking advantage of the benefits. When we recertify, which is next year, we'll start the recertification process. We could take his advice about going up and thinking about attaching a tax to square footage and things like that he said in his report. And, of course, the more people that come to downtown, the more priorities are going to change downtown.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is on us because it seems like everybody's in agreement that housing is a key to success in this area. And I think our staff's doing a great job in bringing in new housing.
Absolutely. And we see ourselves as a partner with the city of El Cajon.
I see a lot of creative thought going into bringing housing into areas I never thought you'd see housing in. So, and a lot of it is in the downtown area. So that's positive. I want to explain it to me one more time because I didn't quite grasp this. So if his idea to convert to the 501c3 is a bad idea in your estimation because it puts the owners in a situation where they're boxed out because only the very large landholders have virtually the say.
So I don't think that's the result of 501c3. I think the 501c3 is just a way where you're categorized more as a charity and you can receive grant money. Right now, as a 501c3-6, we can't get grant money.
Okay,
the thing that changes is the community benefits district. It's the community benefits district that changes from what we have now as a PBID under the Streets and Highways Code.
Was the gentleman suggesting that we do that?
He was suggesting that we change to a community benefits district.
Oh, okay. And you're opposed
and he said about a 501c3 also.
So I want to come back. I want to start with the 501c3. Are you opposed to the idea of that, or is that interesting to you?
No, that's interesting. We would have to find somebody and hire somebody that knows how to write grants and that is successful at writing grants. But I think that could go a long way to some of the things in his report, like the trees at the ends, the extreme ends of our district, or to having the seating and the different things, the trash cans and the different things that he talked about in beautification. I would think that grant money is available for things like that. So I think that would be very useful.
All right. You did catch my attention on the benefits district issue in that I'm on Sandag right now, and as a lot of maybe people are aware of, that there was a law changed a few years ago that changed the voting system so that basically every city except for the cities of Chula Vista and San Diego are basically cut out of the voting process. Right. And it has caused incredible acrimony and agitation throughout the city. And so I'm definitely acutely aware of that problem. And I wouldn't want to recreate that here.
No, and if when it's time to recertify the district next year, I want to go out. I want to contact the property owners. I want them to want us to continue. I want them to, they want the PBID to continue. If you can't convince 50%, then, I don't see how you can really be all that successful, because now you're just taking money and maybe doing things that people don't want.
He talked about some other things like new restaurants. I think we're all in favor of that.
Oh, absolutely.
About this hospitality task force. Mm-hmm. It seems like something you'd be open to.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was a good idea. I think that there's restaurant owners in downtown area now that would be willing to participate, and I think that's a great idea.
How are you feeling about the professional cleaning aspect? Are we still using ECTLC for the Clean and Safe program?
We are using that Clean and Safe, but we actually are getting bids right now. We're thinking that maybe if we do a deep clean of the city on up and down Main
Quarterly
Street, like we're thinking maybe try semi-annually. Part of accepting a bid, I want to be that we get to embed some of our Clean and Safe guys with the company that's doing the power washing, because they have a lot of the same equipment, and it's just a matter of knowing how to use it.
Yeah.
So if we can embed our guys when they're doing the work, then I think there's a better chance that they'll be able to maintain this. And if they can't and they're not up to the job, we don't have a problem going with, having somebody else.
I like the idea of using the Clean and Safe program. I'm sure that Dr. Julie Hayden, who's not the new CEO there, would be open to hiring somebody to train the guys to do a better job.
Yes, I think so too.
I think that answers most of my questions. It just seems to me, again, I'll say that, from the tree lighting to the seasonal displays to the cleaning, to the hospitality idea, to the restaurant idea, it seems like you're doing all this, and that maybe there's room for improvement.
Always more to do.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming and giving us the report and answering all these questions.
Absolutely.
Gary?
Thank
You
you.
I'm intrigued about the possibility of a 501c3 being able to get grants.
Yes.
But I'm also don't want to disenfranchise anybody, and I like the idea of it getting recertified, let's say every 10 years or whatever that is.
Yes.
Because if the taxpayers are unhappy with the service, then they can end it. I don't want to force people to pay taxes when they don't like what's happening, what the taxes are paying for.
Right.
So is there a way that you guys can become a 503C?
C3. Yes. So I think
501c3.
What we'll look into when we talk to our, and I'm talking to the person that we're going to hire as a recertification. I've been talking to her on and off, and that's one thing that I will bring up to her is to maintain the PBID under the Streets and Highways Code, but to write it as a 501c3 so that we can get grants.
That way we win all the way
and then,
around.
yeah, and I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Before Kathy goes, anybody else had comments or questions? Okay. Yeah, Michelle.
I'm kind of waiting to hear everything. So, first question I have is who initiated this guy to come in? Who initiated that?
The city council, as part of its goal-setting session, the year and or 2 years ago, asked for an assessment of the downtown or the PBID. So that's what initiated it. We issued an RFP, and so New
City America.
New City America was approved through a procurement process.
Okay, that answers that. So we spent the money. We had this guy. This guy's very successful, and they've been very successful in Chula Vista, Little Italy, and like. And this is my comment is not anything personal, but if they've been successful doing it the way they laid it out for us. And I know that we may have started we may have tried to do things in the past and it didn't work. But that's kind of just, for lack of a better word, a cop-out. So it didn't work in the past. So let's try it again. This is a new time, a new day. We've got new businesses. They've been extremely successful. So why not embrace, my question, and I guess it's up to us, why not embrace what he says? Embrace it in total and give it a whirl. I mean, what's it going to hurt?
We're not against trying anything. I'm just stating, what we do currently, and we are totally open to doing things differently or to adding things to what we currently do. The only thing I really disagree with in that report, I mean, there's a couple of things, but it's the community benefits district, because I just think it disenfranchises people.
Why do you feel it disenfranchises?
Because the City of El Cajon, County of San Diego, MTS, and San Diego Gas and Electric already have 24% of the weighted property owner vote. That would mean that you'd only have to get 6% of property owners. So basically the large lot, the larger property owners to agree. But we have 304 individual parcels in our district. So the majority of those would not have any representation because they could pretty much all vote no, but it wouldn't change anything.
Okay, and that might be something that we can work out. If that is like the one sticking point to moving forward.
Right, all we have to do for that is to just stay as a PBID instead of changing to a community-based district or community benefits district. So next year when we start our recertification process, if we go under the Streets and Highways division and we just are a property-based improvement district and we don't change to a community benefits district, then all those rules that we currently have are still in place.
Okay. So I know that I did a tour of downtown, and I heard one of the businesses, non-food business, say that the car show just did not do well for his business. I want to make sure that whatever we do encourages business for them as well.
Absolutely.
And, I don't know how we can work it out. I guess bottom line is, this guy's been successful. His suggestions and what they've done, Little Italy, is talked about all the time. And I've been down there on the weekend during the day, and it's packed. I'd like to see that in El Cajon. Like someone else said, they get out of the concert 10:30 and there's nothing available. You know, where are you going to go eat? You might be able to go to Sultan's, but you can't really get, you know, unless you go to a Jack in the Box, you can't go get a burger and a beer or something like that. So I really want to see more progress, more development, and I think that we should try and give this a good, solid opportunity, and that's my opinion.
Well, the board's definitely going to talk about it, and we're definitely going to take it to heart. And we're going to implement things that we think will work in downtown El Cajon now, and maybe some of those things change in the future, and we would implement things in the future once things change and priorities change. There's more people down here or whatever that may be, but we're totally open to that. We all want the same thing.
And also, when you think about it, if we bring in businesses that are used to working with Little Italy and Chula Vista, and we bring in those businesses that are used to how that runs and functions, and they're making money hand over fist, if we come in and we're not running our program similarly, and they're not being successful, they're going to bail. And that, I don't want to see us fail.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
So anyway, I don't want to beleaguer the point, but thank you.
All right, Kathy, we're done. Thank
okay,
you.
thank you.
So it's back to the City Council. Staff is looking for direction on this issue. I'd say my suggestion would be that we send it back to the PBID, let them go over these suggestions, come back with a written responses to their changes, and then bring it back to staff, and staff can make their recommendations to us, and we can go on at that point. Does anybody have a disagreement with that? I'll make a motion to do just that.
Second.
That's moved and seconded by everybody, so please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Okay, thanks, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in 5 minutes to continue with the meeting. We're going to continue. Give me a second. Item 10 is for the Parks and Recreation Master and Strategic Plan, and I'll ask staff to please introduce this item. Hey, Frank, how are you?
I'm great, Mayor. Thank you for having me. I want to briefly give you a presentation regarding our department's
Don't let them harass you, Frank. You just stand your ground and just do what you have to do. Hostile work environment, that's all I can say.
I promise I did come in and test the system earlier. All right, so I'm here to present briefly the department's 2024 to 2029 strategic plan and our updated Parks and Recreation master plan to complement that. If you want a little bit of a difference between the two, a strategic plan is really where do we want to go, and the master plan is how can we get there. There's a couple of reasons why we really want to finalize these, two of which are we continue to get grants that we do not have to compete for because we do have the El Cajon 2030 plan. And we are maintaining the El Cajon 2030 plan with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan wrapped around it. But we know we can get even more grants through the National Recreation Park Association as well as federal and state level with the strategic plan in place. It shows that we've had the community input and we're not just throwing spaghetti on the wall thinking that these things are a good idea. The community has actually provided significant input on the direction where they want to see Parks and Recreation to go in the city. So a little bit of a background. We started data collection for these two documents back in 2022. It was really also to update the El Cajon 2030 plan, as you've heard me talk about in previous council meetings, and council did approve in April 2019. It's the Connecting People with Parks plan. Since then, or since 2022, we've hosted 8 community meetings, as well as multiple one-on-one meetings and many stakeholder meetings with over 60 staff from varying departments all attending. We've collected nearly 400 surveys, so if you add that up with the El Cajon 2030 surveys, that's about 1,200 total surveys that we've gotten, and we have significant provided input to us to where we really have a really good idea where the community wants us to take Parks and Recreation. So our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, just a few highlights. There's a lot of actionable strategies. Park safety was highlighted in terms of data that people wanted to look at different enhancements with that, so we have identified that. Park amenities. Part of park safety is we are, with council's suggestion, adopt or looking at an Adopt a Park program, so community members can, or nonprofits, faith-based can adopt a park, and we're also looking at additional marketing enhancements. For the 2024 to 2029 strategic plan, it's really a 5-year goals and objectives. It's about 11 pages, and about 7 of those are straight goals and objectives in varying parts of the department. We also focus on programmatic upgrades through our instructional services, staff development, and additional revenue generation to make us not be so dependent on the city's general fund. And with that, I will take any comments or questions.
Thanks, Frank. Let me see if there's any questions.
No, just a comment. Thanks, Frank. I'm always impressed how you run our Parks and Rec department. It's got to be one of the best in the state, and I'm just excited to see how many awards you're going to win in the next couple of years, because you set the standard really high. And so we appreciate you looking for grants to ease the budget and breaking world records, or at least attempting to, with dog viewings and all the creative ideas that you have. So really, we got to, I know it's you and your staff as well, so thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Steve?
And this is the city manager as well. I think it would be great to consider the Kaiser property, to think big and say, geez, could we partner with Kaiser? They're not going to build a hospital there in the next 10 years. And it's been 20 years since El Cajon Valley went out. Could we use that property that accomplishes their goals for a healthy lifestyle and our need for more parkland and some kind of public-private partnership, talking about even a regional destination for certain kind of things, whether it's a pickleball tournament regionally or something? I think Kaiser would be interested.
I think it's a great idea. It can revert back to a hospital at the right time. Yeah.
You know, if you build minimally, if you build, for instance, pickleball courts, that's a minimal capital investment. That's basically concrete. That could be torn up easily to make way for a hospital at any time. There's public-private partnerships, perhaps, is a opportunity.
Mr. Goebel, at the last goal-setting session, you guys kind of really vaguely talked about this idea of incentivizing or de-incentivizing property owners that sort of sit on properties, and I think maybe the Kaiser property was in mind as that was being said. So we are thinking about some carrots and sticks related to that, and that kind of is in line with some of the ideas that we've been thinking, at least internally, about the staff level. So thanks for sharing that. It's helpful.
Anybody else for Frank? Thanks, Frank. I agree with what Phil said. We're all very impressed by you and your department.
I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by really strong people, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any speaker cards on this item?
No speaker cards, sir.
All right. This is an informational item only. No motion is required unless anybody has another comment.
I think we do need
approval of the plans.
Yeah. So there's a slide that last slide had kind of the 2 recommendations that we're looking for.
Okay.
I can make a motion to update the Parks and Rec master plan and the 2024 to 2029 Parks and Rec strategic plan.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. Item 11 is an award of bid for the Oakdale Alameda construction project. I'll ask our staff to tell us about this item.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Mario Sanchez, City Engineer. I'm here to talk about, we go back to the title slide. Yeah, award of request for a proposal for construction management services for the Oakdale Alameda construction project or street beautification project. I want to emphasize the definition of Alameda. It's Spanish for promenade with street trees or shaded trees, so segue into that. So background, the city was awarded with the Clean California Grant, a street beautification project in 2022 for, we were awarded $5 million to beautify an entry point in the city. And this project aligns with the council's goals to beautify all our entry points. And when we got this grant, we applied for 3 separate locations, and the project that we won was on Oakdale, on the east portion of El Cajon, Oakdale, the alleyway adjacent to Oakdale, and Walter Way. And so the projects, we're trying to advance equity for underserved communities in this area. So the premise of this whole project is to beautify and improve public spaces. So next slide. If you don't remember, the project limits are from Oakdale, from the easterly portion or westerly portion of off 2nd Street, and it goes to the alleyway just east of by the taco shop there on that corner, and then the alleyway parallel to North 2nd Street, and then Walter Way from Madison all the way down East Main Street. Next slide. So basically, these next slides are just existing conditions we took about 1.5 years ago. The last slide was Oakdale looking east. The next slide, previous slide, was at the alleyway, and this is Walter Way looking southerly. So, and these are our concept plans that we started with when we applied for the project. And the intent of this is to shorten, widen sidewalks, putting in shade trees, putting in catenary string lights, an art mural component, which is trying to do beautification and decorative crosswalks, and then also with street furniture such as enhanced trash cans and an art mural. Next slide, please. And this is the alleyway. If you're north is towards the left, and the taco shop is on that corner. And then the rest of the alleyway will be reconstructed, and porous pavement will be poured to absorb some of the storm water. And we had it at catenary lights, but we're just going to put just typical street lights or lower level street lights because there's service vehicles that need to service the businesses along that alleyway. And then Walter Way, again, just putting in drought tolerant landscaping, and then wider sidewalks with decorative street lighting, just to make this whole area beautified and encourage more pedestrian activity. And next slide. And this slide is just the southerly portion of Walter Way, which again, just some conceptual photos of the street lights, trash cans, and our trash receptacles, and drought-tolerant landscaping. So our project schedule, the city awarded this construction contract to Blue Pacific Engineering back in October 2023 in the amount of $6.4 million. We expect the groundbreaking to take place in March of 2024, and then construction will hopefully be completed by the end of August. So it's an ambitious project timeline. And next slide. So the staff used our on-call consultants list to hire a construction management firm. So we solicited proposals through our on-call list, and we only received one proposal. The other three companies were just too busy to apply. So the company that we ended up with is called Unico Engineering, and their requested amount is $550,000 to do this project, and it's roughly about 8.5% of the total construction contract. So, and this slide is just showing that this is all grant dollars. We're using ARPA funds out of our beautification account, and then we're using also our local Transnet funds to augment our project. So this total project amount is $7.943 million. So with that, staff is recommending that the City Council adopts the next resolution to decrease our ARPA-funded street beautification master project, take $400,000 out of that, and then allocate $400,000 to the Oakdale Alameda Gateway beautification project, and then enter an agreement with Unico Engineering in the not to exceed amount of $550,000 and $448 and change to assist the city with this project. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thanks, Mario. Any questions? Michelle?
Can you go back to the slide with the map of where we're starting?
Yeah.
So that's fine. So you're starting where IHOP is on the south side of 2nd Street. So IHOP, and is it going around the corner a little bit?
Yeah.
Isn't that a dead end?
That's a dead end. It's a
housing?
cul-de-sac,
Right.
on the west end of Oakdale.
Okay,
Correct.
so you're starting there.
Right.
You're going to make sure that there are sidewalks, go across the street till you come up to Walter Way.
To the
then turn-
alleyway.
Huh?
To the alleyway.
To the alleyway.
Yeah.
And then go all the way up the alley.
Correct.
Okay.
And then progress all the way to Walter Way.
Okay. And that sounds good. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But no, I think that is good. I know that that's an area that's been somewhat blighted over the past few years. I think the three of us here have done cleaning there over the past years, and so it'd be nice to have that cleaned up and beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. Nice report. Any speaker cards?
No speaker card, sir.
So it's back to us.
Move to approve staff recommendations outlined in the staff report.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
There are no commission reports on today's agenda. Item 12 is my activities report. It is as reported. Now we're at activity reports for council members. Councilmember Goebel.
As reported.
Councilmember Kendrick. As reported. Councilmember Mitchell.
As reported.
And Councilmember Ortiz.
I have a note that I felt I wanted to share very quickly. I was at the League of California Cities meeting, and our assistant to the city manager, Dave Richards, did a wonderful presentation for all of the representatives there. Him and a team from SDSU are pitching an idea for newly elected local elected officials. A lot of the times when you're elected, you don't know the history behind regional water boards or SANDAG or MTS. And so they were pitching an idea to inform and educate and have these programs really throughout the year to inform local elected officials of the history, budgets regarding these regional issues. He did a fantastic job. I think our chair called him Dan Richards, and he was the assistant city manager, Dan Richards. So watch out, Vince. He might be coming for your job. The other thing from the League of California Cities that was encouraging was the president of the League of California Cities, the mayor of Fowler, Dan Pereira, was petitioning our governor to support the reform of Prop 47. And it turned out to be the longest conversation that he had about the longest conversation of any topic they talked about. And so I was encouraged by the representation from the League of California Cities. I'm not very encouraged by a lot of their agenda and priorities, but this one was one of them that I felt was notable, along with AB 1999, which is hopefully going to be passed to repeal the energy usage for all SDG&E users. It would reform it. So right now, the law on the books that's going to be enacted is each resident and business is going to be charged for electricity and gas based off of their income instead of their usage. AB 1999 would reverse that. The other thing I'll report on is I attended the East County Economic Development Council Gillespie Field Committee, and the county presented and notified that committee that they were going out to RFP to hire a consultant to determine what to do with the surplus 70 acres where the El Cajon Speedway used to be and the indoor soccer field. And that movement hasn't happened at the county in some time. So being that we butt right up against that Gillespie Field area, I felt it was notable that the county is moving. No direction has been made yet as to what they're going to do with that land, but the Pilots Association and the Gillespie Field Committee is committed they want it to be continued use for airport operations. But either way, something that we should be thinking of. And that is my report.
Thanks, Phil. I think that got everybody. Okay. There are no joint council member reports and no general information items. Item 17 is a first reading of the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 3.20 for bidding and written contracts, and I'll ask staff to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor Wells, members of the City Council. This is a proposed ordinance change to our purchasing ordinance that we found could be a benefit to allow purchasing and departments to acquire services under the piggyback type of procedures that we do already allow for acquisition of products, vehicles, and other things other than services. We found that there was a need for this. Sandag recently has worked with us to provide a method to obtain the services based on a contract that Sandag has obtained. And this ordinance would make it crystal clear that we can now move in that direction. We think it would greatly assist departments in purchasing as well to move forward with some of these projects that sometimes come to council that don't necessarily have to come to City Council. So I'm here to answer questions. We recommend at least introduction of this ordinance, and we'll bring it back for second reading if approved.
Thanks, Councilor. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, Angela, did we receive any comments for this?
No speaker card, sir.
All right. Can we have a motion to introduce the ordinance?
So moved.
Second. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote. And the title to the ordinance reads, an ordinance to amend Section 3.20.010 of Chapter 3.20 of Title 3 of the El Cajon Municipal Code relating to acquisition of services, supplies, or equipment.
Okay, there are no second readings of ordinances. We're now at closed session. Our city attorney will recite the title and lead us into the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will meet in closed session on one item, item 18, which is a closed session for a conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. The property is that located at 405 East Lexington Avenue, which the city recently acquired. The negotiating party is with the San Diego Chaldean Community Council and Dr. Nori Barca specifically. City negotiators are the city manager, assistant city manager, and city attorney, and what's under negotiation would be price and terms for payment for lease of property by the city to that other negotiating party.
All right, thank you so much. I'd like to make a motion then to adjourn the closed session.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go closed session. We shouldn't be too long. We'll be back to finish the meeting. Gentlemen, we're back from closed session. I will leave it to the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The Mayor and City Council met in closed session on item 18 for a conference with its real property negotiators involving the property located at 405 East Lexington Avenue, and directions were given to the negotiators.
Thank you. Let me get to the right page here. Let's read all this stuff. Okay. This brings us to adjournment, the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 13th day of February 2024, is adjourned until Tuesday, February 27th, 2024 at 3 o'clock p.m. Sorry about your